Welcome to everybody who has joined so far. Just wanted to make a quick announcement that we will beginning just shortly after 11 o'clock Eastern. So we'll wait a couple more minutes to allow more folk to jump in and we'll be beginning shortly. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion on the least favorite but most critical aspects of public infrastructure projects, which is audits. We are going to go ahead and get started. Happy almost Friday to everybody who has joined. Thank you for joining us today. We have a great lineup for us and a couple of housekeeping discussion items before we dive in today's discussion. To minimize background noise, all attendees are going to be muted throughout, but don't worry, we are monitoring chat and there are plenty of ways to engage with our panel. If you have a question during the discussion, please submit it using the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll do our best, and we have the great Shayna to be able to facilitate any questions that might come in. We're going to do our best to answer and address as many as possible throughout the session. And if you need to step away or want to revisit key takeaways, recording will be made available after the event. So with that, let us get started. So today we have a lineup of experts who really bring a unique perspective from the DOT, the LPA, local public agency, and the private sector, each with firsthand experience navigating audit challenges. And let me go ahead and introduce you to them. Brandon Omeroyd, the LPA construction manager at the Ohio Department of Transportation. He's been at the forefront of ensuring LPA compliance with federal and state guidelines. He's going to be an awesome resource to be able to share insights into common audit pitfalls, best practices for LPAs, and their consultants managing projects. So we'll be excited to hear from him. We have Brian Dilley. He's the deputy construction engineer with Delaware County, Ohio, and he's been with Delaware County, Ohio for 28 years, and he's going to be bringing the local perspective, working directly with LPAs and contractors, so he'll be able to provide real-world examples from his current work at the county. We also have Mary Ellen Kimberlin, who's the Ohio LPA account manager with Infotech. Mary Ellen is a licensed PE. She has worked as a district engineer for Ohio Department of Transportation. She's been an engineer with Youth Kinetics Engineering. She's also served as the chief deputy engineer for Summit County. And today she is lending her 40 years of experience with LPAs daily to help their teams make improvements to their construction record keeping with the latest technology. And then you have myself, Director of Account Management at Infotech. I'm going to be bringing the perspective of working with DOTs and LPAs, as well as AEC firms, coming from a background of decades, specializing in, I should say, more than a decade, not decades, in enabling construction administration teams to digitize their project delivery process. So each of our panelists has a unique lens on the challenges LPAs and DOTs face today, and they're going to share their experiences, lessons learned, and strategies for thriving during audits. Let's go ahead and jump into our agenda. So today's session is going to be all about learning from the past to improve how we prepare for audits today. We're going to be basically going on a journey through 4 real-world audit cases, showing not just what went wrong, but how agencies have adapted to reduce risk and improve compliance. And we're going to start with the first audit ever and end with the latest audit that ended up in the news December of 2024. So for each audit case, we're going to be breaking down key findings and discuss some of the reoccurring challenges. After the cases that we share, our guests, Brandon and Brian, they're going to be providing insights from the DOT and LPA perspectives. And Brandon and Brian also, from our perspective, represent a model for a well-run LPA program, leveraging best practices to minimize audit risks. And their structured approach has led to fewer audits and fewer compliance issues, serving as an example of how agencies can improve oversight and efficiency. And then we'll conclude with some best practices and key takeaways that teams can act on starting today. So let's go ahead and talk about the first audit story ever, and I'll kick it over to Mary Ellen to discuss this.
Good morning. So the first project that really put a focus on audits was the Big Dig in downtown Boston. It was the largest, most complicated transportation project of its time. Took place in the mid to late 1980s. That's when it started. There were 118 individual contracts on that project. It was originally budgeted at $2.56 billion, ultimately ended up at a staggering $14.8 billion, and was way behind schedule. Lots of claims, lawsuits, fatalities. It was completed in 2007. So what went wrong? About halfway through the project, there was an audit, a deep dive report, and they found that it really lacked a strong and structured federal oversight. There was lack of a financial plan, sloppy record keeping. You can see up there the bullet points. And what it caused was, the result of it was, audits are now standard on all projects and they're enforced rigorously. So key takeaway: poor paper record keeping and weak management can lead to delays and cost overruns and adverse audit opinions. Joey has another example for us.
All right, so in my mind, we'll be jumping back into the time machine, fast forwarding to the 2010s. A report from US DOT Office of Inspector General was released after a US-wide review of LPA programs and highlighted a major nationwide concern where the big headline was, and you can read it on the screen there, oversight of Federal Aid and Recovery Act projects administered by LPAs needs strengthening. So what did they mean by that? The audit's report uncovered systemic issues in how LPAs manage projects and funds, and the main issue boiled down to having a lack of consistent, accurate, and detailed documentation, which really still rings true to many agencies and AEC firms that are participating in these state and federal funded projects. The call to action became a clarion call to all DOTs and their LPAs to implement consistent, uniform procedures and criteria to help identify and mitigate risks. So the audit looked at 6,000 projects across 900 LPAs and found, in their words, a significant number of non-compliance issues. One example that stood out was the finding that there was clerical errors that led to $5 million in unsupported costs, which just highlights the impact of even small record-keeping mistakes, which can accumulate into minor or major financial and compliance risks are happening, and they still happen today. These findings led FHWA to take corrective action in form of Order 5020.2. I'm not sure where that specific number came from, but it resulted in several changes and increased oversight. It also led to the creation of educational resources like Federal Aid Essentials for LPA's website, and we'll be linking that shortly. The goal was to enforce consistency and accountability. That was the major theme, and brought to the forefront the need for digital tools to automate collection of necessary project data. This was the big push for what they called Everyday Counts initiative, Everyday Counts number 3, which emphasized what FHWA called eConstruction. Then in 2017, FHWA conducted a return on investment ROI analysis with the help of WSP on eConstruction itself, demonstrating its cost-saving potential so that agencies could have the backing of a proper ROI study to justify investing in digital processes to tackle these issues of lack of consistency, transparency, and uniformity in the record keeping. More recently, May 30th of 2024, FHWA announced the availability of up to 17 million each for fiscal year 24, 25, and 26, what they call the Advanced Digital Construction Management System grants. And again, that really showed the continued need to create transparency and standardization of project data record keeping through digital construction tools. We'll be linking a resource related to that ROI analysis as well. Following some of these changes that were enacted by Order 5020, there was a survey to DOTs looking at the health of their LPA program. And this is one of the bar graphs that was part of that survey and results that estimates how frequently certain issues may have occurred on federally funded LPA projects. And if you look at the bar of significant, which is purple, and green, which is moderate, there still was a continued need to address some of these non-compliance issues like QCQA not being done on force account projects, acceptance of failed materials was happening, insufficient inspection frequency or detail, insufficient material sampling frequency, improper or lacking material certification, so on and so forth. So there was progress, but there was continued identification of more consistency as well as detailed, accurate reporting. Let us move on to our voice of the local public agency. So I'm going to ask a question to Brian. Brian, what is your past experience with audits, and where are you today with that?
So I think we're in the same boat as most people. So there's different styles of audits that we went through. We went through local audits, which mostly handle money and invoicing. The state auditor audits our projects as well. It's mostly money items as well, invoicing, change orders as it relates to contracts. But the biggest one I think that we keep mentioning right here is like an FHWA ODOT style audit that audits most everything that you have in your project. This would include all the money side, but also things more in depth like your daily reports, your DBE regulations, the big ones, materials testing and management. I think after every project or audit, you learn more. You always try to think what will make things simpler next time. How can I stop the errors if you had any? In the past, we would sit down, prepare paperwork, and like on the construction side, which would normally deal with like daily reporting, inspection, change orders, invoices, that kind of thing. We would sit down with all the paperwork, make time, reserve a conference room, get your DOT construction monitor set up, and then you would go through the files as a pair. So not only were you tying up your time, the construction monitor's time, your resources, but I think everybody kind of did it the same way. I think we would for like construction line item payments, we would have a manila folder for every single line item. Inside each one of those folders, I would copy daily reports. Within those daily reports, I'd try and attach the materials that needed to be used and the proof of the use. If there was more than one on the daily report, if I had more than one line item, I would copy that and put them in different folders. And to sit down and go through with all that with DOT monitor takes a long time, tying up quite a few resources. Now using the digital software, we have, I would say, everything online. 99% of our stuff is online. We have no paper files in our office aside from some tickets like stone or concrete. Our daily reporting line items are linked to all the materials management. So in Joey's previous slide, it showed 4 or 5 references back to materials that you can see there that's insufficient, improper, wasn't approved. So now these files are all approved, approved sources, bill of lading, all that stuff gets linked to our line items. So when you go to do your daily report, the line items attached right to it. The biggest thing is ODOT and Brandon can have access to anything at any time. So he can look up our line items, what materials have been approved, and then what actually got used in the field. The other thing that we used to do was change orders used to be on paper spreadsheets. We'd mail them, deliver them, pen on paper type signatures. Now every one of our change orders is prepared digitally through the software. I create the change order. Once it's created, DOT and the contractor gets an automatic email notification that it's out there to be approved or reviewed. Once that happens, once both the contractor and ODOT approves it, I get a notification back that the ball's back in my court. The software will not allow us to pay that change order without going through the entire workflow process. So in order for a change order to slide through, like some of these previous projects that Joey and Maryland's mentioned, it just can't happen. I would say the last thing is invoices. We also prepare those digitally. There's nothing on an invoice that can be paid that has not gone through the contractor, us, and the DOT. The quantities on the invoice are calced by the numbers entered in the daily report. And then in addition to that, the change orders to be paid through the approval process gets added as a line item on a daily report and then entered into the invoice. So the big thing is now, no more does the DOT auditors come to our office. They can do them whenever they want. Honestly, I don't even know when Brandon does a lot of ours. He can do it. Usually at invoice time, we discuss things. Usually that's monthly. But I'd say most of the time, we don't even know if Brandon's completed his audit. He can see it constantly. Now, obviously, there are more thorough audits during milestones like pre-construction meetings or things like that at the end of the job. But for the most part, the construction side of the audits are done online at their offices. And anything else we can upload that Brandon may need to the software as well.
Thank you, Brian. Now I'm looking to you, Brandon, from your perspective. What are some important issues in record keeping among LPAs related to keeping consistent, accurate, and complete documentation?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I see, and I know some of my projects have been audited by our federal monitor, is field measurements. You need to be able to prove what you're paying for out there, whether it's a sketch, pictures, or just a diagram of what's being installed. You got to be able to back up your payments with that. Another thing we is a struggle is the materials. The locals are required to follow our materials management process, and it gets pretty complex. But once you get familiar with it, you can it gets a little better. So yeah, materials management is a work in progress. Last thing is our DBE subcontracts, stuff like that. That's another requirement that we have. It takes some time to get used to. But yeah, we usually help the locals work with that, work through getting that figured out.
Great. Appreciate it, Brandon. So let's move on to another audit case study from Colorado DOT Audit Division. Mary Ellen, want to take us away on that one? You got to unmute, Mary Ellen.
Was trying not to do that, sorry. Colorado DOT recently conducted an audit of 7 construction projects. those projects were various different project delivery methods. Some were design, bid, build, some were design, build, and others were construction manager, general contractor projects. The audit revealed a staggering $19 million in potential savings just by improving oversight and efficiency, daily record keeping on the project. You can see that some of the responsibilities of a project manager that were on overload, decision paralysis, project delays, cost overruns, contractor claims and litigation. Project managers are overwhelmed. They cannot make decisions due to incomplete information being at their fingertips. Results in delays, cost overruns, claims. It's a big problem. We have a snip of some of the actual quotes from the project staff and the people on the team that participated in the survey. If you read through those, these look like things that we face every day in construction on both sides, contractors, consultants, local agencies, state DOTs. We have an inexperienced staff that is stretched too thin. There's overwhelming amounts of paperwork and bureaucracy. Quality assurance and quality control lapses happen. Managing information is pretty much impossible using paper processes at this point. Tells us the traditional ways of managing projects relying on manual paperwork and fragmented documentation is just no longer sustainable. It's too much administrative burden on too few people, increasing audit risks. We're going to go to our LPA. Right. We are going to, all right, go back, Joey, 1 second. Some of the takeaways. Complete your daily reports and get them approved quickly. Since the daily reports drive all of the other processes in a construction management workflow, super important to get those finished and completed and move forward. Make good decisions based on information that is readily available in real time. So that real time is key. Digital tools make that happen. Make sure that the project management and inspection team is trained. There's a lot of resources available. We're going to share some assets with you later toward the end of the presentation. And now we move on to what our construction experts' experience has been. Brian Dilley, going to call on you. Give us an example of how digital tools can help avoid potential adverse audit findings around whatever you'd like to speak to.
I think that there's two big ones. The two that keeps getting referred to in all these samples we're showing is materials management and change orders. Materials management, I think if you're in Ohio with the DOT, I think that's probably the big one that we struggle with. But Appia and Infotech, Doc Express, two Infotech products that we use, has really streamlined everything that we do. Appia will allow your team to put in line item quantities, but you will not be able to pay anything without that approved material documentation being uploaded to the system. So you can take your daily reports, you can do everything you need to, but you physically can't pay anything until that documentation's been uploaded. The system stops it from happening. You need to upload those pre-approved forms that DOT has, like an approved source or a DSR, the old TE24s, to show that you have an approved material for that line, and everything goes by the line item. But you will also need to upload the amount used and proven. Let's say it's a ticket or a bill of lading, something like that. We try to upload all of our material approvals after the pre-construction meeting to every line item, and then put in the provens, what I would call provens, the tickets, stuff like that, when the line gets entered on on the daily report. There is some that comes later in the jobs, but most of that stuff we try to do as early as we can. On the other option, or I'm sorry, the other issue was signed change orders. The DOT obviously requires they approve any change orders on an LPA project. They need to be part of the workflow. So prior to going digital, no matter how small, I can understand how it could have been approved or not have been approved, and ODOT kind of left out of the loop. due to a small change order you attach to an invoice, and you move on. Now it really can't happen. Once the contractor requests additional funds, that form gets submitted to us either from them or I can create it, but it gets to us and ODOT at the same time. So once Brandon approves or the other DOT monitors approve, I approve, and that becomes available to include in a daily report to be paid. So I think having the digital tools saves us during an audit with those two, I would call major issues out there.
Thank you. Brandon, your turn. Are there any instances of LPAs using digital tools like Appia that make a positive impact on your job?
Yeah, for sure. I oversee 40 to 45 projects per year. So it's a lot of, I try to attend all progress meetings, all that stuff. So it's a lot of job duties. With Appia, I'm able to, hop on a project and see at any given time, what's going on in the project, check out daily diaries. You can see pictures, it almost paints a picture. If I haven't seen a project in a while, I can pretty much get a good idea what's going on in the project, just by, hopping on Appia and looking at the daily diaries and all that. So it's definitely made my job easier that way. And also just with the auditing, I'm able to, like Brian said, he doesn't know when I audit. I just hop on there, use it around estimate time. Just get on there, check out materials, pay quantity, stuff like that. That's a good thing if he doesn't know I'm auditing him, because that means I'm really not finding anything wrong. So it's been very helpful.
That's very cool. So I know it takes at least 33 hours of training for an LPA to become eligible to manage an LPA project themselves. Brandon, why does ODOT allow LPAs to manage their own projects rather than ODOT? What's the theory behind that?
Just to be, they're going to be the ultimate owner of the project. So, our theory is, let them, have ownership of the project. Also too, just the ODOT does not have the capabilities to build all these, because we're putting out, in my district, we have several 20 million plus local lab projects. So they're a good size of them. We just don't have the workforce to administer ODOT lab projects and local lab projects.
And you think they're capable?
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. All right, we're going to move on to another case study with Joey, City of Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, so now on to the last and the latest example of an audit, and this one comes from the City of Richmond that was actually in the news a little over a month ago. This audit, again, is another textbook example of what happens when project documentation is inconsistent or incomplete, and that continues to still happen today. On December 2024, the Office of the City Auditor identified 1.2 million in discrepancies due to, in their words, inadequate records and inconsistent justifications. And this is exactly the type of issues that put agencies at risk, not just for financial losses, but also reputational damage and even legal consequences. So when project records are missing or incomplete, it becomes nearly impossible to validate costs, track materials, or justify payments. Digging a little deeper into this case, we see some serious red flags in the project payment verification area. So contractor payments were issued without verification, meaning funds were dispersed without confirming work completion. There was instances where equipment was being billed during non-working days, suggesting potential fraud or errors in reporting. There was also a field asset surveyor bid line item that was misused for administrative billing and raised several compliance concerns. So looking to you, Brian, are you seeing instances of consultants or LPAs accepting payment requests without proper validation, like City of Richmond's case?
I think that's for Brandon.
Forgive me, Brandon.
Nothing to that scale. When I audit projects, I'll find minor errors here and there, such as material documentation or payments, for stuff that hasn't been measured or stuff like that. I don't look at it as the time to penalize the local and, you know, take that money back as much as it is a learning opportunity, to show them, hey, next time we need to do this. And, you know, that's how I view it.
And for you, Brian, in your experience, what are important unexpected challenges to look out for that could lead to claims, disputes, or legal action similar to the city's case?
I think we, you know, with these audits, you're not intentionally missing anything, I don't believe, I would hope. Audits are just a way to ensure that the money that's set aside for a particular job is being used for its intended uses, no more, no less. I think what we've got up to now has taken us a long time to get set up. I think we've been over 15 years since we've had a claim. That said, I think most of my disagreements are what happens in plans, how you read the plans, how you build it, how the contractors read it, because the software that we have has taken all the other discrepancies out. That we don't lose change orders. You don't argue over when you put that piece of pipe in back, you know, 6 weeks ago or whatever. So if you're taking away all of the what I would say things you can handle, I don't know, and limit it to the unknowns outside of daily reporting, that's super important, and materials management, that's super important. You're just down to the what I would say, you're outside the realm of general summary and quantities and stuff. You're looking at plan errors and things. So software itself keeps us out of the claims process, and we've been lucky enough to avoid it for a while.
And going back to you, Brandon, with the DOT, you mentioned having fewer claims and legal issues compared to the past. How has digital tools helped reduce those occurrences?
Yeah, kind of like echo what Brian says, just, you know, transparency with everybody, everybody will be able to view daily reports, pay estimates. I mean, you have the contractor, you know, signing the pay estimates, you know, through the electronic signature and all that. I mean, you guys are communication daily out there, so I think that really relieves any, you know, big problems at the end of projects or when it comes invoice time. So it just helps everybody stay on the same page.
Thank you. And now, Mary Ellen, talk to us about some practical takeaways.
As we wrap up our audit section, let's focus on a few takeaways that can help your agency avoid audit risk and ensure compliance with federal and state requirements. So here's some top actions you can take to be audit ready and protect your funding. First one, keep your skills current. Federal Highway has the Federal Aid Essentials website. We're going to drop that into the chat, and that offers training for LPAs. Every DOT has an LTAP center. It's Local Technical Assistance Program Center. They offer training, usually thousands and thousands of courses that you can take. Go through there and find courses that would help you grow as a person and do better at your job. Conduct random internal audits. So internal audits can be anything from picking an item to make sure that the quantities posted were measured, the quantities have, you know, approved materials, that there's a photo taken of them. Do that just every so often on your project, in your active project, and then you can try to avoid some of the major audit risks that you could catch and fix. Use your construction manager, project engineer as a resource. Think resource officer, not a cop. So Brandon is Brian's resource officer. He goes to him, gets help, resources. Brandon's job is not to pick on Brian and find little things to annoy him. He is truly there as a resource for him. And they have a wonderful relationship. I think you can pick up on that as they spoke. Post-construction reviews. Take some time at the end of a project, bring everybody into a conference room, do a virtual meeting, and talk about what things went well, where there were gaps of information, and use those as continuous improvement opportunities. Digital project construction management and inspection tools. The reality right now is paper-based systems lend themselves to missing records, inefficiencies, and compliance risks. Time savings and efficiency improvements in digital construction management can literally save the day. So digital solutions like API and Doc Express, they simplify your audit prep, reduce human error, ensure accurate real-time project documentation. The key takeaway is proactive compliance is always better than reactive damage control resulting from an adverse audit finding. By implementing these steps, you can protect your funding, streamline your processes, and avoid the headaches that come with adverse audit findings. Now we can open it up for questions. What are your biggest audit challenges? And maybe we can help you navigate them.
So for those who are on, feel free to use the Q&A function. And I'll wait one more minute, but if there's no questions, I would like to point out a lot of the resources that Shayna has included in this session that point to the recent audits that happened. They're just good case studies for what to look out for, a spot check for your team on where these occurrences happening, as well as some of the training resources that Mary Ellen shared. Well, if there are no questions, we will continue on with the day. I appreciate everybody's attention, and we would love to work with you on any of your current challenges or issues related to audits. If you have any questions for Brian or Brandon, Mary Ellen, myself, we are happy to continue the discussion offline. Have a great rest of your eMERGE day. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.